Okay, let's talk about your niche, your ideal client, your target market. If you've never heard any of those terms, then this will be brand new for you. I'll describe them in a minute. But I'm guessing for most of you, you've probably heard a lot of talk about needing to get clear on your ideal client, on who you serve. And there's all kinds of schools of thought around this. Some people say you don't need a niche, but the truth is, having a niche or an ideal client really helps you to get really targeted in your marketing and to tell people exactly who you serve and know where to go out and find those people. And so it can be really powerful to know. And it's one of the really important pieces when you're early on in your business and really at every stage in your business. But what happens is we get stuck. We get stuck on this conversation. Like if you guys are watching me and you've ever felt stuck on this, type stuck in the chat, or you feel like it's just taking forever to get clear, like you've been trying to figure out your ideal client for months, right? I often hear this, or even years sometimes. And you just want to tear your hair out. You're like, why do I have to know this? This is like so frustrating. Can't I just coach everyone or serve everyone? And the answer is you can absolutely work with all different kinds of people. However, again, for your marketing's sake, it's going to be so much easier if you know who you serve. So that's what we're going to talk about today is finding a niche that you're actually genuinely lit up and excited to work with. So it's not like, this woman was on my live last week because I go live here in the Mastery of Coaching Facebook group every week and I do these extensive trainings like we're doing today. And someone was on the live last week and she said something like, or these are actually her exact words, I'm not sharing her name or anything. She said, when you spoke about your calling, I realized that who and what I coach is not really my calling. She said, I want to help women entrepreneurs have a business that brings them joy and is about their passion to help them find clarity on their journey. And if you're here again watching, I won't say your name, but you can say hello in the chat. I love that you got that out of the call last week, which was all about how to identify your unique gifts as a coach. And you can go back and watch that if you're in the Mastery of Coaching group here. If you're not in the Mastery of Coaching group and you want access to that training, just go to go.followyouraliveness.com/join. So the word go, G-O, dot followyouraliveness.com/join. You can join our free Facebook group. We have lots of trainings in this group. And yeah, so now I go live on multiple places at once. So you might even be watching the replay here on YouTube or something like that. So, okay, Nina's telling me my broadcast is being interrupted. So can whoever's here on Facebook with me, can you just type and let me know, is that still happening for you? Is the service okay? Because I don't want to do this whole training and then find out you guys weren't able to see or watch. So everyone who's watching here on Facebook, can you type in the chat? Let me know you can see and hear me okay. And just want to make sure we're all good to go before we continue. You guys can do it on Instagram too if you'd like. Let me know you can see and hear me. Okay, I've got one, I'm fine. So hopefully more to come. All right, so the reason I love the story of the woman who posted last week and said that she had just told me a few minutes earlier on the live who her target market is, and it was something very different. And she had this aha moment that, like, wow, this was really, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know exactly what her moment was, but it seems like what she realized was she had come up with this target market from her head, from what she thought was a good idea or would make her successful, but it wasn't actually genuinely who she wanted to serve from the heart. So that is what we're talking about here is who do you want to serve? Like who would you love to support? Because here's the thing, this is going to be your work for a long time to come and your target market can absolutely evolve, but we want to get really dialed into that desire. And so I'm going to walk you through some questions and some processes to really hone in on this. And I'm getting lots of, I can see and hear you okay. So that's great. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And I am going to be asking some questions. In fact, before I get into this topic, I really like to make these interactive. If you've been on these with me before, you know, I want to be coaching you here in the live If you are watching the replay, then you can still play along and type in the chat. But especially if you're on live with me, I want you to engage here in the chat, because what I'm going to be doing is actually going off of your questions to make sure we're coaching you, you're getting more clarity, and everybody can learn from that. So that's what was happening last week when the woman shared that aha moment. So here's my first question is, if you have no idea who your ideal client is, or your niche as it's called, these are all interchangeable words. Your niche is like, if you think about a niche in the market, then that's one way of describing it. Target market is another way of describing it. Those are both kind of like broader. And then ideal client is basically the same thing, because the way we want to think about the whole target market you want to serve is by thinking about the one ideal client you'd like to serve. And I'm going to talk about that more as we go along here. So the reason I'm saying all that is, if you're brand new to this idea, then just to quickly state that your niche, your ideal client, your target market is all different ways of saying the person that you would most like to serve, who is representative of like a market that you would like to serve. And the reason, again, that this is powerful is because it helps you, if I meet someone at a party and they say, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a coach. They say, okay, great. Who do you serve? Or what kinds of clients do you work with? Oh, everyone. I can work with everyone. If you were the person on the other side, would you be like, oh, great, I know who to refer to this person. She should definitely meet my mom or my friend Sally or whatever. Would you be thinking that, or would you just be like, oh, that's nice? Because it's general, right? It's vague. On the other hand, if you met someone at a party, they said, yeah, I'll use an example of one of our clients. What do you do? And she would say, I help women in their chapter 2 of their lives really get back to fulfillment and unlock their voice and see what they want in that next chapter, so it can be even better than the first one. I'm paraphrasing, right? But this is Nikki Clark. I don't think she'll mind me telling you her name, because she's amazing. If you are a woman in your chapter 2, you should definitely check out. I think she has a Facebook group as well called Chapter 2 Unleashed. And so that's what Nikki does, and that's what we got clear on as her target market. Now, imagine again, you're on the other side listening to that, and you know someone who's in that stage of life. And are you more likely to go, oh, I know someone that you should connect with? Right? So the chances of you being connected to the right people are so much higher when you get clear and narrow down who you really serve. So that's just a quick, for anyone who's not really familiar with the idea of a target market, that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so if you have no idea who your ideal client or niche is, type new in the chat. Okay, I want everyone to answer one of these questions. If you have tried to get clear before, but you're still confused, type confused in the chat. And then if you've been going for one target market, like you had chosen a target market, but it's just not really lining up, it's just not really working, then type starting over in the chat. Okay. So we have one new. Okay. I'm going to repeat those one more time. If you have no idea who your target market or your ideal client is, type new. If you've tried to get clear before, but you feel confused, like you're still in the confusion around it, type confused. And if you've been going for a target market, but it's just not lining up and doesn't have a lot of energy, type starting over. Okay. This is like, I've been trying to target this market. I've been trying to talk to them in my marketing, and it's just, I'm not really getting the results. Then you would type starting over. So I've got, okay, on Instagram, I see a starting over. I have a new here. Perfect. Who else? Go ahead and type in the chat. I want to hear from all of you, because that gives me a sense of where you are. And so Debbie, I'm curious, on Instagram, what was the target market you were trying to target that's not really having a lot of energy? And then Jasmine, you're brand new, so that's great. You'll be able to get a lot out of today. Okay, trying to see who else. I'm like, the notifications are up here on Instagram. All right, well, the rest of you are typing either new, confused, or starting over. Again, really important that we make this interactive so I can coach you and support you. Someone said going good. That's great. Glad yours is going good. Awesome. So I told the story a little bit, or I told the example of Nikki Clark, one of our clients, who's an amazing coach. She's one of our certified coaches. And she, through her work with us, really got clear. She went from being just a general mindfulness and spiritual life coach to what I talked about before in terms of really supporting women in their chapter two to get reconnected to what they really want, to speak up more, to use their voice with their friends, family, to go for whatever that dream is for their next chapter of life and have better communication. So it's all about chapter two, and she calls it chapter two unleashed. And this made such a huge difference when she was, okay, we've got another one, new and confused. Go give her on Instagram. So let me know then on the confused, who have you started to like try to, have you gotten any sort of clarity, or are we just starting from scratch here? So when Nikki got this clarity, it changed everything for her. We rebranded her completely and she started going out there with this message and being really, really consistent. Everything she does is around this idea of chapter two. And what's amazing about this is that she started getting all kinds of clients. So she got a lot more clients for her chapter two coaching, but then she was also getting all these other clients who weren't necessarily people in their chapter two, but what's beautiful is that because of her consistency around one message, people like knew what she was about, and then other kinds of clients started to become curious as well. So this is speaking to the kind of objection that people have a lot of times with choosing a niche, which is, well, I don't only want to serve one kind of person. Well, when she started coaching and getting consistent with her messaging around that, she had someone refer, that they wanted her to coach their teenage child, and she had all different kinds of clients coming through. So if any of you have ever felt that feeling like, I don't want to rule anyone out, right? Like, I isn't that going to make me make less money and have less success? Has anyone ever felt that way? Like, oh, I get this whole target market thing kind of, but I just feel like it's going to make me, like, it's going to slow my success. If so, type slow in the chat. I'm curious if anyone's felt that way. And let's see, Suzanne says, I have a loan at the top. Yeah, so kind of like chapter two, your tagline, Suzanne, and I know you're in some of our programs, is a loan at the top. So that's great. And then describing that a little bit about who that is. So you've gotten a lot of clarity already in terms of who you want to serve. So a couple of caveats is one is that your niche is going to evolve. Your niche is going to evolve. It's very rare if you're going to be in this career. I'm guessing you're a coach or a consultant or whatever you might be. It's very rare that you're going to pick a niche and stick with it for your entire career. Do you guys get that? Like, it's going to evolve over time. And eventually, maybe you'll become really known for something. And then that may be the niche that sticks. Like, Brene Brown is vulnerability. Like, that's her brand, right? That's what we associate with her. But she might have had other books and other topics. I don't actually know her story before that didn't really hit as big. And that's not what she became known for. There's a woman I follow named Amanda Francis who's a money mindset specialist. And she wrote a book about it recently, but she's been doing her work for 8 to 10 years as a coach. And she did all kinds of things, right? I'm going through one of her programs. I've read her book, and she was helping. I mean, I think she still has a lot of these other programs and products, like helping people with, like get their coaching businesses online. And I think she did, like, she said her blog originally started out, it had like a fashion component to it. So she did all these different things over the years and then started to hone in on where there was the most curiosity was this money topic. Now, I'm talking more about message here than I am about target market. So I'm a little bit on a tangent, but the same principle applies here. If you are trying to get clear on your ideal client, it's going to evolve. Like, she started out probably with a slightly different ideal client than it is now, but over time it gets clearer and clearer and more hopefully aligned for you. So I want to take the pressure off and take the stress off for all of you of like needing to get it right. Okay? So if that feels like a nice sigh of relief, then just say like, ah, in the chat. I want to hear from you. Like, does taking the pressure off, knowing that this is going to evolve, Does that make you breathe a sigh of relief? If so, just say ah in the chat. All right. It helps me to have that interaction. I love to see, like, is this landing for you guys? So your niche is going to evolve. That's the first caveat. And then you can absolutely work with people who aren't in your niche. It's just a matter of who you focus on and focus your marketing around. Remember, just like the example I gave of Nikki, who chose her niche, got super specific with her messaging, and then other kinds of clients came in anyway. Okay, I got an ah in the chat. Good, that makes me feel good. So are both of those a relief, right? Because they kind of handle the two biggest things I see that keep people stuck when it comes to choosing your ideal client. And that is trying to get it perfect, trying to get it right, stressing over whether it's right. Okay. And the answer to that is that it's going to evolve. So just pick something and start there. And then, secondly, that you're going to somehow not be able to get as many clients because, or not be able to serve different kinds of people because you've chosen a niche. And like we described, that's not actually true. Okay. All right. Getting some more ahs in the chat here. Good. So now, quick thing here before we get into really the meat of how to get clear on who you want to serve. So your niche is only one piece of the puzzle when you're getting started in your coaching business, or you're kind of what would you say, reframing, re-looking at who you want to serve. You also need to be really crystal clear about your unique gifts, like what sets you apart from the million other coaches out there. Maybe not a million yet, but there's a lot, right? And more every single day. So what sets you apart? And does the market that you choose, does the ideal client that you choose actually want to buy what you have to offer? Do they have a pain or a desire that's big enough? And will they invest? Will they pay at the level you are thinking of charging for that service? So this is important. A lot of people just choose their niche and then they just go, okay, this is who I'm going to serve. And they start putting it out there, but they haven't actually validated that there's a market for what they want to do at all. And you can do that. It's a riskier way of doing it, right? Because like some of the people who said that they're starting over, so to speak, is because they went out there with a target market, and maybe this is you, went out there with a target market they wanted to serve, and they've been going for it, and they haven't been getting results. Now, there's different reasons that could be happening. It could be something in their marketing, their messaging, their sales and enrollment process. There's different aspects, but it could also be that you're actually not going for a market that wants to invest or that can and will invest in what you're offering. And so it's really important that once we get clear on who you want to serve, that determine, is there definitely, okay, getting some ahs on Instagram too, is there definitely a market for who you want to serve? All right. So and then next is, what are you going to charge? So once you get clear on all that, what are you going to charge? And then how do you overcome those pesky like fears and doubts you might have about charging your worth? And then finally, how do you move through self-doubt and fears and patterns that show up when you start to put yourself out there? And so the reason I'm mentioning all of this is, like, niche is one little piece. If you're getting stuck on niche, you are like missing the forest for the trees, right? You're stuck in this one little thing that's only one piece of the puzzle. And we need to look at the whole puzzle to get you out there successfully getting clients as a coach. And so we have a 21-day challenge I designed called Package Your Wisdom. And that is actually starting on the June 10th. If you're watching this live or sometime within a couple of weeks, then you can join that live program. If you're watching this a replay like way later, we run it, at least 2 to 3 times a year. But we won't be running it at this point for several more months. So I highly recommend, if you're curious, you come into it. It's 21 days. It is only, at the time of this recording, this may change, $97, you guys. And this is not just like a self-study program, because you've probably bought other self-study programs and never finished them. That's not how this works. This is a challenge. You are in a Facebook group with other people going through it at the same timing you are, and you have live calls with me. So I am personally getting on live. We are, jamming, you're learning, you're watching these videos, you're doing these worksheets. There's like 20 worksheets or something in the program, really powerful stuff. And we walk you through step by step everything I just described a moment ago, and even more than that. And you're in this Facebook group, you're getting coaching on these live calls. It's incredible. The value is like, I don't even know how, at least 10 times, if not more, what you're paying for this program. So that, if you're curious about that program, I just want you to type wisdom in the chat. And if you are on Facebook, and then if you're on Instagram, you'll need to send me a private message, okay? So at McKenna Sage, Makena. Send me a private message, or if you're on YouTube, find me on Instagram, send me a private message with the word wisdom, or I want to know more about the Package Your Wisdom Challenge, okay? And if you are on Facebook, one last thing, you'll need to send me a friend request, otherwise I can't message you. I know this is a lot of different but we've just learned that I've tried to message people and they never even see it because we're not friends. So just send me a friend request if you typed wisdom in the chat, and I'm happy to send you that information. It's an incredible program. It is literally, I looked back at what helped me make $20,000 on my first ever coaching launch, make $150,000 within 18 months of starting to coach. And then with, very soon after that, I was doubling and tripling from there in terms of my annual revenue. So that's what I call the wisdom to wealth system. And that's what we really go through in that program. So again, if you're curious about that, type wisdom in the chat. Okay, so ideal client, let's talk about this. So what we want to do here is we want to come from desire first. Remember, your desire is super, super important. We don't want to just come from your head as far as like, who do you want to serve? We want to look at who would you be delighted to support? Who would you be delighted to work with? Okay, so just take a moment and really tune in. Maybe you even want to close your eyes and think about, or not even think about, because that's the head, right? I want you to drop into your heart and just like breathe for a minute. We're going to slow this down. Take a couple nice deep breaths, get connected to your heart. Think of something you're really grateful for. And then I want you to imagine that you can work with any kind of client you want. Any kind of client you want. Like, you would be successful no matter who you choose. And this is like someone, the kind of person you would have so much fun working with, that you would love to support. And just see what comes up. Like, who would you love to coach or provide your services to, whatever it is you do? And I don't want you to think too general here. You might even think of a real person. Can you think of one real person, whether you know them or not, that you're like, man, I would love to coach them. I would love to consult them, or I would love to provide X service to them. I'm going to challenge you here to really think of a real person. And let all those fears and doubts and everything else, put those aside. This is a perfect world where you know they'll say yes. Can you imagine, if you have someone in mind now, can you imagine having 10 more clients like that person? Notice how that feels in your body. When you imagine having 10 more clients very similar to that person, does it feel good and light and expansive, or does it feel kind of heavy and contracted? If it feels heavy and contracted, then you want to choose a different kind of person. That's not it. If it feels good and light and expansive, you're on the right track. Okay? So notice, how does that feel? If you need to switch to a new ideal client, choose another real person. Pick someone else. Who would you be delighted to serve? Who would you just love to work with as a client? And maybe you want to have programs with lots of people in them. Maybe you want to picture having 100 clients just like this person. And how does that feel? Maybe they're in group programs or buying your, online programs, whatever it might be. How does that feel? We're looking for the ideal client that feels expansive, that feels exciting, that will make you rise into even a better version of yourself in order to serve them. Imagine it's a year from now and you have a full roster of clients like this, totally full. You're making the money you want to be making, you're rocking it in your business, you're so happy. How does that feel when you imagine this kind of client that you are picturing right now? And what would you be supporting them with? This full roster of clients that's just like the one that you envisioned first. What would you support them with? So take a moment if you have your eyes closed and just a couple more moments, see if anything else comes. In Package Your Wisdom program I mentioned before, we go through a whole worksheet of like a lot of different ways of looking at this, a lot of different angles, but for the sake of time on today's live, I can't go super duper deep. But just noticing that distinction of expansive or contracting is really powerful, and really taking the how out of it and allowing yourself to just dream about who would you love to serve. So I'd love to hear some shares from that. What did you see? Like, did you see or sense anything about the kind of ideal client that you'd love to work with? What came through for you in that visualization? And then Jasmine, Dustin, Roussel, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I think Roussel. If y'all just make sure you friend requested me so I can send you that info, that'd be great. But go ahead and type in the chat, what did you see from that process? Was your ideal client you thought about expansive, or did it contract? Did you have to go to somebody else? What came through for you? Because I can talk and talk all day, but if you don't actually apply this and do the visualization and see what comes up and then ask questions here, then you're just consuming a bunch of information and you're not actually applying it. I talk about this a lot. One of my coaches talks about this being infobesity, where we're obese on information, which is kind of like a ridiculous word, but I like it because it kind of describes something. We take in so much information, but we don't actually go and apply it. And I want to really challenge you guys, if you're taking the time to watch these lives or the replays, I want to challenge you to not do that and instead to really like apply what we're talking about here. Journal on it if you want to. If you're watching the replay, pause the video, right? So getting some shares here in the chat. What did you see about your ideal client? No shares yet. Everybody must still be in visualization land, or often there's a delay. That's why I like to wait just a minute. So another way of thinking about this, I may have said this already, is if you knew you couldn't fail, who would you be excited to coach? Who would you be excited to coach if you knew you couldn't fail? Okay, Roussel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, says, I think I'm in an expansive place of discovering who that is. That's awesome, Roussel, but who did you see in the visualization? Did you do it? I'd love to know, like, did you see a specific person? And if so, can you describe that person? Because I want you guys to not just like, again, listen and feel good and feel expansive. That's great. But you could get clear on this so fast, it's unbelievable. This is something I see a lot is people take, again, weeks or months or even longer trying to get clear. And again, it's great to enjoy the process. And if you have, if you want to take your time and you're not in any hurry to go out and start getting clients, okay, that's fine. But if you do want to really get to that place, like most people are like, no, I would love to get out there and start getting clients. I would love to start actually coaching. I feel like I have something to share and I want to put myself out there, but I don't feel really clear about what that is or who I want to serve or how to package and price it, then that's what we're talking about here. And that's what in this video today, and then in the Package Your Wisdom Challenge, that's why 21 days is so powerful, because in 3 weeks, we go through all of that. Think about that. It does take 30 minutes to an hour a day, but what is that? That's like your lunch break, right? It's not a huge deal. If you are consistent with it, you walk out of that challenge feeling crystal clear and client ready, meaning if the you can put yourself out there online. If that client shows up, you are ready to go, man. And okay, so Roussel says, oh yes, it was too many people. It was your last question that nailed it for me. Great. So did you pick one then? I'm not sure which question was my last question, but did you pick one ideal client? That's what I would love to know. You want to get it down to that one person that you would love to have 10 people or 100 people like them. So describe that person to me just a little bit. Okay, Suzanne has something specific here. Great. The CEO and owner of one of the best five-star hotels in Zurich. Ooh, love that, Suzanne. That is awesome for you. And I don't think I've heard you say that before. So that's, maybe even getting you some more clarity. And so if you imagine a full roster of clients like that, does that feel exciting and expansive? And if it does, then we want to go, okay, what are the qualities of that person? Do you actually know him? I'm guessing it's a him or maybe a her. Do you know them? And if so, do you have any idea of, I know you were just on one of our calls in our business bootcamp program where we brought in a guest expert and she went through the whole, Sherry, she went through the whole system of really getting, okay, good, you know him. Yeah. So I wonder, could you do a little ideal client conversation with him and then find out if he knows other people that you could have a conversation with? Like that would be an awesome, I think, target market for you, just knowing what I know about you. So Suzanne is in our coaching certification program, Aliveness Mastery. And then you also, when you're in that program, have access to our business coaching program. And so she's been in this for a while, but it sounds like it's getting even more clarity on who she wants to serve. So I love that. Roussel says, world leaders, governments, organizations, someone who's excited about transforming education, the Secretary of Education. Okay, good. See how you got more specific there, right? It was very broad, and then you got more specific. Again, just because you're choosing an ideal client doesn't mean you can't serve other kinds of people. So the Secretary of Education, I'm guessing that's someone in politics. I should probably know this, but so what I want you to do is imagine now if this is like your ideal kind of moonshot client, then you can still do the process of really getting clear on like what are the qualities of that person and what would they be struggling with that you would coach them around, and would that person feel that they have a need for what you have to offer? Do you just think they have a need, or do they know that they have a need for what you have to offer? So this is where some of the subtleties come in that I talk about in Package Your Wisdom, our 21-day program, because it's awesome to get clear on who you desire to serve, but you want to make sure, and then once you know that, we want to see maybe it's not exactly them, maybe it's someone that has similar qualities or something like that that you have access to right now or have a way to get access to them, or that what's the other thing, and or you want to make sure that your ideal client, this gets into validating your market, has a need and that they know they have a need for what you have to offer, right? So I'm curious, Roussel, for you, if you look at like the Secretary of Education as your dream client, which I love, and hey, put that on your vision board, or like if you know them or you know some way to get connected to them, then I say go for it. But if that feels kind of far out in the future, like you might not be able to get there right now, then we want to go, what are the qualities, and is there someone, a real person that maybe you know or that you're only 1 degree of separation away from, that would also be an ideal client? And then you can think of other clients like them, okay? So start where you can while taking the qualities or the things that excite you about serving that ideal client and applying them here. So thank you guys, because this interaction in the chat, and let me know if that makes sense, Roussel, or if you see anything else there. This interaction in the chat really helps. It helps not only me to, be able to serve you better, but it also helps other people who are watching, because they might have the same kinds of like questions or things coming up. And I want to make sure that you all are getting what you want out of this live. Okay. So, because this is the last kind of question I want to ask here. And again, in the program, we go a lot deeper, is does that ideal client, do you have access to them or to someone like them? Are you connected to that market in any way? And then does it align with your skills, what you have to offer? And then will they pay for this? This is one of the most important questions that people don't ask themselves. They just go, this is who I want to serve, and I know they really need this. And I say, that's great, but do they know they really need this? Are they willing to pull out their credit card and invest in something like this? And if not, then we need to dig deeper to see, is there another way we need to position it? Or, is it a different target market, or is it the same target market, but there's another way we need to go about talking about what you want to do with them, or another way that you can serve them. So some of the other questions you're going to want to be mulling over, but we start from desire first because that's where we get little clues that start to point us in the right direction. Okay, so amazing, Roussel. You have access to that person in 1 degree of separation. So perfect. So in that case, then it's really to see, I don't know if that person would be open to doing a informational interview with you, or you talk to other people who know them and see like what are their needs. I'll give you guys an example of this. I actually just landed a really exciting speaking gig that I'm not going to share yet until it goes live on their platform and everything, but it's fully confirmed, and it's this amazing like aspirational speaking engagement. And I really wanted to do this, and I had the idea, and I got connected to the person that would book these kinds of engagements. And rather than just pitching him on the idea that I had, I decided to ask the question, what are you looking for? Like, he books speakers all the time and people to come in and do workshops and everything else. So instead of going in like everyone else and saying, well, here's what I'd love to offer, I said, what are you really looking for? And he said, in this case, told me about what he wanted and what he was really looking for. And it was a little different than what I was originally planning, but I could still see total overlap and synergy in how I could offer something like this. So it could feel like a huge win for him and still really exciting and a win for me. And so I pitched him on the idea of, this, what I saw that could meet what he really wanted and really dovetail with my skills and what I have to offer. And he wrote back to me and said, I love this idea, all caps, LOVE, right? And this is a big deal, like where I'm going to be speaking and doing these workshops. And so that is just an example of, we want to make sure that there's a market for what we want to offer, that they're like as excited or more excited than we are about it, you see, and that they're willing to take out their credit card and invest in that. So just food for thought. We can't go through that whole process today. And then I just want to give one other story, because we told the client story before. And by the way, if any of the rest of you want to share in here what you're seeing about who your ideal client is, any questions that are coming up, go ahead and put those in the chat. So when I started coaching, some of you might have heard this story, my first ever coaching program that I designed when I went full-time into coaching was a 5-month business coaching program called Momentum and Flow. And it was a group program. It had some one-on-one coaching in there, but it was mostly a group program. It was $5,000. And I decided my target market was going to be women entrepreneurs. And I didn't go super specific with that target market. I could have said, it was really early stage women entrepreneurs, like women entrepreneurs who are just getting started and want to get to that first 6 figures, or they're kind of have maybe gotten close or hit that before, and they're kind of growing to that next level. But I would say the ideal client was really women getting started, wanting to hit that first 6 figures in business, and that they were, the other thing that really set my target market apart was they were like tired of the whole one size fits all, like marketing. This is still true today with a lot of our clients. And they wanted a way to market themselves and grow their business and put themselves out there that really aligned for them. That it wasn't just like, hey, here's what I've done that works, so do all this stuff, or do all these, social media posts that don't actually get you any clients. Like, they wanted an approach that felt authentic. They wanted to, grow their business in a really aligned and authentic way. And so they were tired of kind of like the one size fits all online marketing strategies. And so this was my ideal client: women entrepreneurs, early stage in business, tired of the one size fits all. And that's what I went out for. And could I have gotten even more specific? Yeah, sure. I could have said only, coaches and consultants, which is more of who I work with now, although I still do have clients come in that I would say coaches and consultants are our target market. But again, just like I described, we have lots of clients come in that work in corporate, or, are not coaches and consultants, they're other kinds of entrepreneurs, and they get tons of success through our program. So just because I'm focusing on that target market doesn't mean I don't work with other kinds of people. So I could have gotten even more dialed in, but at the time I chose not to. And so one thing I want to share here is that the demographics don't have to be super specific. Okay. So demographics are like, male, female, or other gendered. Um, Demographics would be like married or single, this age group, like 30 to 6, or not 30 to 60, that's a large target market, 30 to 40. What else? Lives in this place, etc. So what I find is that when they are doing target market, a lot of people get too caught up in demographics. Have you guys ever thought about that in your target market? You're like, this age, this marital status or career or gender or whatever, and you're spending all that time trying to get clear on that. But the truth is, what matters most is the pain points they have, like what they're struggling with, and or the desires that they have. Okay? Pain points and or desires. That is what sets them apart. So you can have a little bit of demographics in there, but like I served women of all different ages in that program. I didn't actually niche down in terms of age. Now, I could have said my ideal client was probably between 25 and 35, but I had women in there in their 40s and 50s, and that was no issue, you see. And so I want you to get a little less caught up on demographics and more on the pain points and the desires that really set them apart, okay? So last thing I want to share here, and I want to hear your ahas so far in the chat. What's your biggest ahas so far before I get into these last couple of points here? So what are you going to really take away? What have you seen? What are you going to apply? I've loved some of the shares so far. So tell me. So I do want to say that we've talked a lot about what gets people stuck around choosing an ideal client. And one of the things is that they are trying to figure it all out in their head, or they're doing self-study programs, or they're watching videos like these, and they kind of get an idea and then they just like get stuck, or they feel like, well, maybe this is it, but I'm not really sure. And we get stuck in analysis paralysis. Like if that's ever happened to you, type analysis paralysis, or just type paralysis. These are like hard words to spell, in the chat, like paralyzed, you could say in the chat. If you've ever gotten stuck in analysis paralysis around this or around anything else in growing your coaching business, right? And so if you feel like you've been there, how long have you been trying to get clear? Some of you said you're just getting started. Some of you said you've been trying to get clear for a long time. So we don't want you to get stuck there because, again, this is the whole idea behind Package Your Wisdom, is like, I want you to be able to take your wisdom, take your life experience, take what you have to offer, and get out there and start sharing it with the world and start getting paying clients with that. That's the whole point. Like if you can do that in 21 days, imagine where you're going to be a month from now. So much clearer, so much more confident, actually putting yourself out there to get paying clients doing the work that you love. Or maybe you're already working with people and you're just going to take it to the next level. Now, from there, you can always go continue to develop your skills, which is huge. You need to continue to develop yourself as a coach, whether you are starting from the beginning and you want to get certified, or you're, already have a lot of, training and certifications, but you want to dive even deeper and really gain mastery. You can do all of that, but let's get you clear on a target market. Let's get you out there first. Let's get you going for it. And then that way you have that momentum, you have that excitement, and you're not sitting back going oh, no, I need, all these 10 things first, and then I'll go put myself out there. You guys, this is a form of procrastination. If you have been trying to get clear on your ideal client for a while, ask yourself the question, am I using this as an excuse? Am I procrastinating, right? So really important to look at that, because if you just keep going around and around and around, you can do that forever. And meanwhile, life is passing you by and you're not actually out there doing the work that you're meant to be doing and changing lives in the way that you're meant to be doing. So here's what can make the difference in my experience, is getting support. And, if you run this by someone you trust, who knows what they're talking about here, and get their feedback. And again, that is why I created the Package Your Wisdom program and included in it 3 live small group coaching calls, and you have the opportunity, you're going through, you're doing these really in-depth processes that take you through to get crystal clear, and then you get on these calls and you're like sharing what you see, and you're getting feedback, and you're getting even more than we can do here in the chat. I can only do so much in the chat, right? But if you're on face to face with me in a Zoom call with like a small group of people, then we can really workshop this and really dialogue, okay? And then the other thing that really helps here is putting a timeline on it. So whether you're going to do Package Your Wisdom or not, if you're going to do that, that's going to create an automatic timeline of 21 days. If you're not going to do it, then I want you to put a timeline around this. By when are you going to choose a target market and just go for it and stop questioning and stop, overthinking, overanalyzing. And again, if you're new to this conversation, still put a timeline on it. Even if you haven't been stuck, I want you to not be getting stuck. All right. I want you to be taking those next steps, because this is only one little piece. It's just the one that for whatever reason people get stuck on a lot. Okay. So let me just see a couple of the shares here in the chat. I chose this guy CEO because he is sympathetic, although who would really need me are the bankers or CEOs of big companies who are really alone. Okay. So what I would do, Suzanne, is I would do ideal client interviews with both, right? Do them with the CEO and people like him, see if he has more referrals, and do them with the the bankers or CEOs of big companies as well. And you were on that call with Sherry, so she really walked you through, like with men, there's some like ego pieces. So the way you approach that has to be, or she walked, I think, Nicole through that, right? But I think it's still a good thing for you to keep in mind as well, is like how to approach these men in a way that it doesn't feel like it's around the negative thing of like being alone, because a lot of them won't admit to that. So you're going to need to find like, I'm looking for really successful men who are CEOs of companies or, whatever. And I'd love to do a short informational interview with you. And that's kind of where I would take that. So great clarity there. Okay. Any other ahas you'd like to share? Any other questions? Put them in the chat. And just to mention, the Wisdom to Wealth system that I teach in the Package Your Wisdom program, I would say there's really like 12 steps to that system, and we go through 8 of them in Package Your Wisdom. We can only do so much in 21 days without overwhelming you guys. So those 8 steps are to step into your power, to identify your gifts, to clarify your ideal client, to really nail that down, to validate your market, craft your transformation, design your offerings, charge your worth. You guys, how many of you are undercharging or are scared to go out and charge or don't know what to charge? This is a big one. And then prepare to shine. And step into your power and prepare to shine are both about mindset. So we begin and we end with mindset, because that's a huge piece. Is the strategy alone isn't going to get you there. We've got to work you through the mental piece, like the blocks or the fears or the self-doubt or whatever is coming up there. And so again, we teach those 8 steps in Package Your Wisdom. It's a 21-day, currently $97 program. If you are interested in that and you haven't already, type wisdom in the chat. And if you are on YouTube or Instagram, reach out to me on Instagram. You can go to instagram.com/McKennaSage, MAKENASAGE. And either way, I hope you guys got a lot out of this training today. We had some great conversation back and forth, and would love the opportunity to work with you further. We also have lots of other trainings here in the Mastery of Coaching group. So be sure to go back and look through all of those. I mean, just like dozens and dozens of trainings on all different topics, and really encourage you guys to apply what you're learning. That's why I ask you to share here in the chat. Okay, Helen, we'll send that to you. Make sure you friend requested me on Facebook so that I can actually send it to you. If you don't do that, you won't see my message. So really important. What was I going to say? Apply what you're learning, right? That's why I ask you to engage in the chat. That's why I ask you to tell me what your biggest takeaway is. What are you actually going to take away from today? Because otherwise it's just going to sit there in your mind and you've learned all kinds of great information and that feels good, but it doesn't actually move you forward in your business. Okay. Thank you for being here. I love you all. I really enjoyed this. Next week is a holiday in the United States. I know some of you are international, but because Monday is a holiday, it's Memorial Day, we will actually be going live on Wednesday, June 1st. Wednesday, June 1st will be the next live call. And that is on the topic, how to charge your worth. So if you notice, we're kind of taking little pieces of what we're going to be doing in Package Your Wisdom and giving you a preview so you can get a sense of what it's like to work with me, so you can get value from these. If you don't go into that program, you can still get a lot of value. And so next week on the, oh, sorry, that's the following week. There's one more before that. Next week is actually about how to create high value coaching packages. We have to do that before we can charge your worth, right? How to create high value coaching packages that people want to invest in. That is on June 1st, June 7th, which is the following Tuesday, is about how to charge your worth. So we've got how to create those high value packages people are excited to invest in, and then we have how to charge your worth. Keep an eye on if you're in our Facebook group, keep an eye on your emails and your text messages because we send out notifications for these lives. If you're not in our Facebook group, join it. It is go.followyouraliveness.com/join. Invite your friends, tag them in these videos. You guys, we want you to share them, get tons and tons of value out of what we do here. So see you all. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.